hungry man with a healthy appetite. When it comes to lunch, I might not choose what I like. Don't want me to ice cream, pizza on a pie. When I eat my lunch, prefer to be alive.
What's crackin', film buffs? Straight Shooter here. Welcome to the last episode of How I See It for today. I'm going to be giving you my spoiler red band review from here at Team Sound Studios. And today, or this episode rather, we'll be covering Birds of Prey. And there's another longer title, and I think it's called And the Fantabulous Emancipation of one Harley Quinn. Here we are, the DCEU is kind of in shambles. The Justice League, that universe that they were shooting for, is kind of separated into different entities. Like Wonder Woman is its own separate universe now. Man of Steel, Superman is Henry Cavill apparently isn't going to play him anymore. Batman is being rebooted, so Ben Affleck is out. Aquaman 2, I guess, is coming out, and he's got his own story going on. Shazam's got his thing going on. So it doesn't look like we'll get much in the way of crossovers anymore, at least for now. But the cool thing that they did was, okay, Suicide Squad wasn't very well received. There were things that I liked about the movie, and there were things that I thought were just about the movie. But one of the best things, if not the best thing about the movie, which I don't think many people can disagree with, was Harley Quinn. Margot Robbie, she really nailed it. She got her mannerisms down, she got her look down, and she could kick ass. She did a lot of her own stunts. She even, she played her very unhinged, too. Like, you never got the sense, she's a good girl, because she was a villain. But she was also kind of an anti-hero, because she was fighting someone worse than her, which was the Enchantress and her brother. I can't remember, I don't remember much about that Suicide Squad movie, to be honest with you. But they kind of did the same idea, where you have Harley Quinn, who's a villain, but she finds herself pitted against Black Mask, who is a worse villain, who, by the way, is played by Ewan McGregor. And the other actors in the movie, Mary Elizabeth Winstead of 10 Cloverfield Lane and Scott Pilgrim fame, plays Huntress. I don't know who the actress was that played Black Canary. And then you have Rosie Perez. I haven't seen Rosie Perez in something for a long time, but she plays a cop by the name of Renee Montoya. Harley Quinn got herself caught up in the fact that, okay, she's not with Joker anymore. And when she was with Joker, she had carte blanche to do whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted, to whoever she wanted, and there were no consequences. But being that she broke up with the Joker, that's not the case anymore. And they have all these people that are going after her on both sides, the criminals and the cops alike, for all the shit that she did when she was with Joker. And being that she's not with Joker anymore, she's trying to live a little bit more low profile. But it's hard to do that when everyone in the city is gunning for you. And the movie is rated R, so you have a lot of fucks and a lot of shits and a lot of different curse words. And the violence, surprisingly, wasn't very violent. I mean, there were a lot of things happening in the fight scenes, but it was actually surprisingly tame for an R-rated movie. There wasn't a lot of blood. People weren't just getting killed at random left and right. They're also trying to sell Harley as an anti-hero, so it kind of makes sense that they went that way. But I kind of wish that they just said, okay, but we have to remind people that she's not a good person. And even though she says that in the movie, I'm not a very good person, they're also building her up to say, like, she's trying to be a better person. So part of that is not just randomly killing whoever she wants whenever she wants to. Which, I can get on board because I am interested in seeing more of what Harley Quinn has to offer in the DC universe. Whether that's another Birds of Prey movie, whether that's in another movie down the future in the DC universe, who knows? So the plot of the movie is basically this. There's this little girl who picks pockets, and she pickpocketed Victor Zsasz. Yes, Victor Zsasz is in this movie, but I don't really like this version of him because he was holding a diamond that he was getting for a black mask. She found the diamond when she was going through the stuff that she had, and she ate the diamond. So Harley Quinn teams up with Huntress, Black Canary, and Renee Montoya to protect the kid from Black Mask. But at first it's separately because everyone is trying to find the kid and the diamond, but the team up doesn't actually happen until towards the end of the movie. So even though the movie is called Birds of Prey, it's not really about the Birds of Prey. It's about Harley Quinn. And it's kind of funny because at the end, she does a little narration and she says, oh, they got together and formed their own crime-fighting horde, and they call themselves the Birds of Prey. And that was the big nod that the Birds of Prey got. But that was pretty much it, and the team-up. But the movie was about Harley Quinn. And I'm sure that they called it Birds of Prey because they wanted to introduce these characters into the DC movie universe. And using Harley Quinn as the catalyst for that makes sense because if they just put out a movie called Birds of Prey and there was no Harley Quinn, it probably wouldn't have got near the box office draw that it has or will. Black Mask is this evil guy who just kills violently on a whim. His thing is cutting people's faces off, and he's a bit over the top, played by Ewan McGregor. And if you don't know much about the Black Mask character, then you might think it's fine, okay? He is who he is, and he's Black Mask, and maybe you know the name Black Mask, but maybe you don't know much about his character. And that's probably the kind of audience that they made his character for. Because I know him from Batman, I know him from the animated series, I know him from other movies that aren't, not The Dark Knight or whatever, but other animated movies or whatever. And he's always been a bit more subdued. He's always been like the quiet, cool guy, the mysterious guy with the black mask. And to see him being played so over the top was a little bit jarring, especially with Ewan McGregor playing him. Because you would think Ewan McGregor would be, the perfect Black Mask guy, the cool, confident, like the Jedi version of the Black Mask. But he kind of played, and I understand it was probably to flex his acting chops. He chewed the scenery a bit, and, that's fine and well and good. But for Batman fans, it wasn't a great characterization of him, but he was still a good villain. He was pretty ruthless, and he represented the threat that Harley Quinn would need to fight. He makes a deal with her to trade her for her life or whatever, and she decides she has to do it, but then she has a change of heart. Her and Huntress and Renee Montoya and Black Canary team up, and they end up killing him. It's actually a pretty cool twist. He has a knife to the kid's throat, and she says, "I have to tell you one more thing, Harley." And she's like, "I stole something from you, a ring." And she pulls up her hand and it's a pin to a grenade, which obviously the grenade is in Black Mask's pocket. So Harley Quinn thinks fast and does some fancy gymnastics move and kicks him into the water and he blows into bits. And that's the end of Black Mask. And that's pretty much the end of the movie. Except that she takes the kid and drives off and says, this partnership was going to last, but the Birds of Prey went on and did their own thing. And Harley Quinn and the kid went off and did their own thing. The movie is very polarizing, even for one person, because it's very chaotic as far as tone. Because it's part comedy, it's part action, fighting scenes, it's part explosions, but it's also very demented in a way. They do this thing where Harley's narrating, and because she's narrating, the timeline jumps around a lot. Like, the movie moves to a certain point, and then she says, okay, I have to take you back to this point. And then you see scenes leading up to then, and then the movie progresses a little bit more, and she's like, oh, wait, I have to tell you about this too, and then it goes back. I'm pretty sure it's probably because the mind of Harley Quinn works in fragments, so they're showing you the fragments the way they show up in her mind. And it was okay, but it didn't really make a lot of sense narratively. But being the Quentin Tarantino fan that I am, and the fan of other movies that are not necessarily linear, it wasn't that big of a shock to the system for me. It just took a bit of getting used to. And it was okay. I don't think it would have mattered either way, whether they told it in a more linear fashion or whether they did it the way they did. It was just a choice that they made, and it didn't really affect the quality of the movie. It just was the way it was, and you either like it that way or you don't. I'm neutral about it. I could have taken it or left it that way, but it's not going to affect how I felt about the movie. It's just one of the things that I wanted to point out because it's different. It's not your typical superhero or supervillain action movie. It has a lot of elements to it. There's even like a little bit of a musical number, which takes place in her head. So it's not like people break into song in the movie. It's just she's being interrogated and she gets hit, and she sees this like musical in her head, and then she gets hit again and again, and then it stops, and it was kind of a weird way to go. But that, again, has to do with the mind of Harley Quinn, because she doesn't think on the same plane as other people do. And I get that. I think there were other characters in the movie that were kind of wasted. Like, okay, Black Canary. Now, again, just like Black Mask, if you don't know much about Black Canary, that's the kind of audience they built that character for. Because, first of all, Dinah Lance is Black Canary. Dinah Lance is the mother of the Canaries. She's the mother of Laurel Lance and Sarah Lance. I was wondering the whole time, like, when are they going to show her ability to use her sonic scream and all that stuff? And it didn't happen until the end of the movie, where there was just one pivotal scene where she had to help them out because they were in trouble, and then she did, and I was like, yes, finally they're doing it, but she only did it once, and that's fine. And her other abilities were kicking ass and taking names, and, she was a really good fighter or whatever. Black Canary could have been developed a little bit more deeper. I think that applies to most of the characters in the movie. It applies to Black Mask. It applies to Black Canary. It applies to Renee Montoya. And Renee Montoya, she gets suspended. She has to give up her gun and her badge. And it's funny because Harley narrates exactly what you as the audience are probably thinking. Oh, she's suspended now, so that's when the fucking shit gets real. So that's what happens. Like, she fights along their side and fights the Black Mask and his hordes and stuff like that. And then there's Huntress. And I don't know much about Huntress, but I do know that I like Mary Elizabeth Winstead. I just wish they would have explained more about her character, because all you know about her is that she's going around and killing people with a crossbow. They call her the crossbow killer, but she calls herself the Huntress. And then she meets up with Harley Quinn and the rest of them, and she says, they call me Huntress. And what you do find out about her is that she was part of a mob family, and they were all gunned down, and she survived, and she was raised by foster parents that were assassins, and that's how she became so good at killing people and fighting and all that stuff. And it's very boilerplate as far as backstories for women who kick ass, like Black Widow or Wonder Woman, or maybe that's who the character is. I just don't know enough about her. The movie itself was enjoyable. I liked it, and most of it is because of the same reasons why there are things about Suicide Squad that I liked. And it's Harley Quinn. I mean, Margot Robbie again kills it as Harley Quinn. That was probably the other reason why they made the movie centered around her, is because she's the draw. She's what makes the movie that much more interesting. Not the Birds of Prey, not Black Canary, not Huntress, not Black Mask, but Harley Quinn. In that sense, they made the right call. If the movie was a bit longer, they could have delved more into the other characters that are involved. But at just over 100 minutes, that's not a lot of time to tell a lot of the backstories. And we already know Harley's backstory, and we already know what happened with her and the Joker. They show a little flashbacks to Suicide Squad where she dives into the vat of chemicals and all that stuff. And then there's a scene where she breaks it off with the Joker by driving a truck into Ace Chemicals and blowing it up. And that was like the first 20 minutes to half hour of the movie. So it really was about Harley Quinn. And one other detail that I liked was that, comic accurate, she got a hyena. So Harley Quinn is known to have hyenas on her side, and they didn't really explore that outside of earlier iterations of her character, but now they show her with a hyena, and it was pretty funny. And of course the hyena has to be CGI, but it was still pretty cool to see. Yeah, I mean, the movie was violent, it was chaotic. The violence was almost cartoonish too. And I say cartoonish because there was a lot of smashing of limbs, breaking of bones, a lot of pummeling people over and over again, and they wouldn't die, and they would just get back up. Like I said earlier, I understand that even though the movie is about villains, they're kind of anti-heroes, so you don't want to just show them just randomly killing people. But at the same time, for an R-rated movie, it was a bit tame. To sum it all up, how I see it is I would give the movie a B+. Probably going to own it when it comes out on Blu-ray or 4K or whatever it's going to be. It's better than Suicide Squad, I would say. Not quite as good as the Dark Knight movies, or the first two anyway. Batman, Superman, or Justice League. It's about on par with those probably. And I didn't hate Justice League, and I hated Batman versus Superman even less. It's about on par with that, only because there are things about the movie that are kind of jarring, but there are things about the movie that are really enjoyable. It's an entertaining movie. You're not going to be bored. There's always something going on. And whether it's Harley or whether it's the action scenes or whatever it is, there's always a reason to keep watching the screen. And in that sense, it accomplishes its goal, I guess. Could it have been better? Yeah, it probably could have, but it is what it is. And I enjoyed it for what it is, and I think that's all I have to say about it. So, that was a day, wasn't it? 4 reviews. And last time I was saying, hey, next one is probably going to be Birds of Prey, but I managed to squeeze in 3 other movies before that one. So, that's it for this week. I hope you enjoy Oscars weekend. Hope you enjoyed the reviews. Drop a quick note if you'd like. Let me know what you thought. Like, subscribe, share, comment, all that good stuff. This is Straight Shooter, and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.
There's no escape. The fighter is now the prey.